Put your finger on your chin right now. That small ridge of bone pushing forward under your lip. No other animal on Earth has it. Not chimpanzees. Not gorillas. Not Neanderthals, who had bigger brains than you do. Every primate that has ever lived has a jaw that slopes backward. Yours points out. And after 150 years of arguing about it, science still cannot tell you why. To understand how strange that is, you have to understand what a chin actually is. Because it isn't the soft part you just touched. Press harder until you feel bone. That's the front of your lower jaw. It's made of two halves that fused together before you were born, and the seam where they met is called the mandibular symphysis, the joint at the front of the jaw. Every mammal has one, but on yours something is built on top of it. A wedge of bone that grows forward and downward, past the roots of your front teeth, past the line of your gums, out into open space. Anatomists call it the mental protuberance. Everyone else calls it a chin. Here's what makes it strange. Every other structure in your skull is doing a job. The eye socket holds your eye. The nasal cavity warms the air you breathe. The jaw carries your teeth. The chin carries nothing. No muscle pulls on the outside of it. No tooth root reaches into it. You could remove it and every part of your face would still work exactly the way it does now. It's a piece of bone with no purpose. And we are the only ones who have it. In 1908, 3 priests digging in a cave in southwestern France pulled a nearly complete skeleton out of the ground. An old man who had died roughly 50,000 years earlier. His skull became the most famous Neanderthal face in the world, the one in every textbook illustration for the next century. His jaw ran straight down from his teeth and stopped. No point. No wedge. Nothing. Neanderthals existed for around 400,000 years. They buried their dead. They made tools and glue and jewelry. Their brains were the same size as yours or larger, and not one of them ever grew a chin. Neither did Homo erectus. Neither did the Australopithecines before them. Go back through 7 million years of fossils and every jaw ends the same way, sloping backward beneath the teeth. Even the earliest members of our own species didn't have one. The oldest known Homo sapiens remains, found at Jebel Irhoud in Morocco and dated to around 300,000 years ago, have a face you'd almost recognize. The chin isn't there yet. It shows up roughly 200,000 years ago, and once it appears, it never leaves. For most of the last century, the explanation seemed obvious. Chewing. Your jaw is a lever. When you bite down, force travels through the bone, and the front of the jaw gets bent and twisted with every chew. So the chin was described as a buttress, extra bone laid down where the stress is worst. That answer sat in anatomy textbooks for decades. In 2015, anthropologists Nathan Holton and Robert Franciscus at the University of Iowa published a study in the Journal of Anatomy that took it apart. They had access to something almost nobody has. X-rays of the same people, taken repeatedly from childhood into adulthood, tracking about 20 years of facial growth in each person. If the chin were a response to chewing stress, then the people whose jaws worked hardest should have grown the biggest chins. They found the opposite. As faces matured, the mechanical demand on the front of the jaw went down. Chins kept growing anyway. And structurally, the thing is in the wrong place. Chewing stress concentrates along the sides of the jaw and up near the joint. The chin sits at the bottom of the front, outside the load path entirely. Adding bone there to survive chewing is like reinforcing the doorframe to hold up the roof. Then there are babies. Infants chew constantly, and they have no chin at all. It develops slowly through childhood and pushes forward through adolescence years after weaning, long after the hardest chewing of a human life is already behind them. The textbook answer had been wrong for most of a century. But if the chin isn't for chewing, what is it for? This is where the explanations start multiplying, and where they start falling apart. Each one that fails narrows the possibilities until what's left is stranger than any of them. Speech was the next candidate, and it sounds convincing. The muscles that move your tongue anchor to the front of your lower jaw. Talking pulls on that bone thousands of times a day. Except those muscles attach to the inside surface, to two small bumps behind the bone you just pressed. Chimpanzees have those bumps too. The chin is on the outside, facing forward where nothing pulls on it at all. The muscles of speech are anchored to the back of the wall, and the chin is a lump on the front of it. So researchers went looking somewhere else. Sexual selection. In 2010, anthropologists Zanita Thayer and Seth Dobson at Dartmouth College measured chin shape across populations and found a consistent difference between men and women. Male chins are taller and project further forward. That kind of split between the sexes is often a signature of mate choice, the same process that produced antlers and bright feathers. But there's a problem sitting in plain sight. Women have chins, fully formed ones, present in every population ever measured. Ornaments driven by mate choice usually show up in one sex and stay there. Peahens don't grow tails. It's worth stopping on that for a moment. There is an entire industry built on this bone. Fillers, implants, contouring, jawline routines, thousands of hours of video telling people how to fix a weak one. We judge each other on it constantly, and have done for as long as anyone has kept records. Nobody selling any of it can tell you what it's for. So in 2015, anthropologist James Pampush tried a different approach. Instead of asking what the chin is for, he asked how fast it arrived. Some traits have no purpose at all. They drift into existence through random genetic noise, and drift moves slowly at a rate you can calculate. Pampush reconstructed the chin's appearance across the hominin family tree and compared it against what drift alone could produce. It was far too fast. Whatever built the chin, it wasn't randomness. Something was pushing. A year later, Pampush and David Daegling published a review in Evolutionary Anthropology that went through every explanation anyone had offered since Charles Darwin first raised the question in 1871. Chewing, speech, sexual selection, buttressing against the tongue. Not one of them survived contact with the evidence, and here's the part that almost never makes it into the textbooks. Which brings us to the answer most researchers now lean toward. And it isn't a purpose at all. The chin might not have been built. It might be what was left behind. Over the last 200,000 years, the human face shrank dramatically. Brow ridges flattened. The middle of the face pulled backward. Teeth got smaller and jaws got shorter, generation after generation, until the projecting hominin snout had collapsed into the flat vertical face you see in a mirror. Franciscus and others have argued that this retreat was driven partly by a drop in circulating testosterone across our species, the same shift that appears to have made us more socially tolerant, more cooperative, and able to live at densities that would have been lethal to our ancestors. The evidence for that shift shows up in more than bone. It lines up with the moment our ancestors started trading materials across long distances, living in larger groups, and producing the first symbolic objects. Cooperation on that scale is impossible between animals that cannot stand to be near each other. We got gentler, and our faces caved in. But the jaw didn't collapse evenly. The upper part, the bone holding the teeth, pulled inward with the rest of the face. The lower part, the base, stayed roughly where it was. What's left standing at the bottom is a chin. Under that reading, the chin isn't a structure at all, it's a residue. A shelf left exposed by a retreating tide, and the tide was our own aggression draining out of us. Except Pampush's numbers say it happened too quickly to be an accident. So the field is split and honestly stuck. Either the chin is the leftover edge of the process that made us calm enough to build civilization, or it's an adaptation doing a job nobody has identified yet. 150 years. Darwin, Iowa, Dartmouth, Duke. No agreement. Meanwhile, roughly 8 billion people are walking around wearing one. It appears in every population on Earth. It develops in you whether you chew hard food or soft, whether you speak or never learn to. It is the single most reliable way to identify a skull as belonging to our species, and nobody can tell you what it's doing there. It isn't for chewing. It isn't for speech. It probably isn't decoration. It might be the fossil of a temper we lost. The next time you're sitting across from someone, look at the bottom of their face. That small ridge of bone is the newest thing on it. 200,000 years old. On a skull that's been under construction for 7 million. Every person you have ever met is carrying an unanswered question at the front of their skull. And you touched yours at the start of this video without ever once wondering why it was there.